So basically, like Revolut was founded 2015 in July, and we launched our service to the public. And how we started was basically like a travel card that allowed users to spend anywhere in the world without any fees. So no markup on exchange rate, no transaction fees. You always get like the best value for your money. And we quickly added something else, which is basically free international money transfers. So if people want to transfer money from the UK to the US, for example, it usually takes 5 days. And the reason for this is that there's multiple banks in between, and there's not a global central bank that basically creates trust between financial entities. Since then, we raised over $300 million. We currently have a valuation of 1.7 billion and nearly 500 employees. So we currently have like, I think 2.7 million users. We're growing around 10,000 new users a day. It might sound impressive for certain startups, but our goals are quite high. So we're aiming to get 100 million customers in the next 5 years. And that's why we're really keen on expanding our service across the globe to South America, North America, Asia, and other regions in the world. What's special about our growth is that it's 100% organic. We don't pay for marketing. We don't believe it's good spent money. We rather invest that money and build a better product. So all of our users actually love what we do, and they just recommend it to friends. We currently have nearly 2 million active monthly users and around 350,000 daily active users. So the way we measure them is actually making a financial transaction. We don't really care if people open the app 50 times. What matters is if people actually use our product, if they send money abroad, if they spend with their card, and similar things. The other thing which is quite impressive is our transaction volume went up quite a lot over the last year. We're currently processing $2.5 billion every month, and we're currently growing at around 35% month over month. Our total transaction volume is around 23 billion. So now to the fun part, the product. So essentially what we aim to achieve is essentially like a truly global banking experience. So similar to Uber, like whenever you travel to countries abroad, you don't need to have a new taxi app. It's basically like you tell Uber where you want to go. It gives you the best possible rate. It even shows you beforehand how much it costs. And then the driver comes conveniently to you. You don't have to speak even the language. So I had like a really good time here in Uruguay because of Uber, which might be a bit tricky if I order a cab because I don't speak Spanish that well. So in that case, what we're offering is currently like you get a Euro IBAN number, which allows you to get your salary paid into Revolut, and the same with a GBP current account number. Once we launch, for example, in new countries like the US, you also get a US checking account number. All these account numbers, they're free, and we won't charge even in the future for having like 10, 20, 30 different account numbers. This basically allows you to keep Revolut using when you actually relocate to new countries. So previously to living in London, I lived in Lisbon, and I had already Revolut. So when I moved to the UK, I didn't need to switch my bank account. I didn't need to change all the standing orders, change all the direct debit, tell my friends like I have new account numbers. It's basically all stayed the same, and for the outside, it didn't really change anything. The second thing is that every bank account needs is like recurring payments and also direct debits. What is special about Revolut is like that you can do recurring payments in any currency that we support. So we currently support 24 fiat currencies. So let's say I get my salary paid into pounds, but I have saving accounts in Austria, where I'm from. So every month, basically automatically, like I transfer a certain euro amount into my euro bank account. And the good thing about this is I always know exactly how many euros I get into my account, because it basically, you only specify how much euros you want to receive, and the conversion happens on the fly. You don't have to do anything. The whole thing is automated. You can set it up once a week, once a day, once a month. It's up to you. The second thing, which is unique about our service is you can add multiple cards. So for example, traveling through South America, there's a high risk that someone steals or clones my card details. So in that case, I have a couple of spare cards with me. So if someone steals my card, I just link a new card to my account by taking a picture, and that's it. And the app also allows me to freeze my lost card in the app. So I don't have to call someone, it's instant. And if I find that card again, I can unfreeze it too. We also have additional security measurements like geolocation security. So for example, if someone steals my card and tries to go to an ATM and withdraw money, even if he has my PIN, like the transaction will be automatically blocked because Revolut knows that I'm not at that ATM. In terms of analytics, so something which for me is super convenient is whenever I make a payment, you actually see directly in the app the payment. So you get a notification sent to you which tells you how much you actually paid. If you paid, for example, Uruguayan pesos, it shows me how much the value is in pounds. It also shows me more stats about like how much I spent today and if I went over my budget. But what's also interesting is like every transaction at Revolut is like in real time categorized, and it put into, for example, shopping, restaurants, categories. And that allows you to actually filter and see how much money you spend at which time of the month, if it's decreasing, increasing, if you go over your budget, below your budget, if you spend way too much money on coffee. It's basically up to you to decide how you want to use it. The other thing is, sorry for the screenshots, usually there's videos. Yeah, but I don't think there's Mac support here. So the thing is about vaults, so most people have actually problems saving. So I think in the US there's like stats that like 90% of the population doesn't have more than $1,000 in their savings accounts. So people live like paycheck to paycheck. And that's mostly for the reason that people don't know how to save. So let's say if you earn £1,000 a month and you want to save 50% of it. It would actually drastically change your spending behavior because suddenly you only have access to £500. And the whole month you actually think about like, how do I spend £500 and not how do I spend my £1,000? So that's actually the main reason where we figured like why people have issues saving. So what we came up with is an easy way whenever you pay with your card, we round up your spare change and you can save it in any of the supported currencies. So for example, currently whenever I pay with my card, it will round up the spare change and then automatically buy Bitcoin and store it in Bitcoin. And so hopefully the price goes up in a couple of months and I'm quite happy about it. The good thing is that this actually accumulates a lot of like money and you can even use multipliers to accelerate your savings. So currently I save around £200 a month, and the good thing is I don't even notice it because with every payment, basically £1 or £1.5 gets just like locked away in my savings account. If you need access to that money, you can withdraw it at any time. The other thing what we figured is you often go to restaurants and like let's say you go with like 8 friends to a restaurant, and what happens then often is like you don't want to actually split it like payment by payment. And in the UK there's even certain rules that like if you go like in a bigger group, they don't want to split it up like let's say to 10 people. So usually what happens is one person pays the whole bill, and then you need to collect your money, and it's quite time consuming, and then people forget about it, they don't have cash or whatsoever. So what we came up with is like an easy way to actually ask people through their phone number to pay you. So if they're ready on Revolut, you basically just click a button. If they're not on Revolut, they can just enter any card details, and it automatically gets transferred to your account instantly. Same thing is with Near Me. What we figured is that, actually there's a cool story about this. So one of our head of country managers, so basically our expansion squad, he was in London, he was quite late at the airport. So he just got a cab, and the issue was he didn't have any cash, and he couldn't pay for whatever reason in that cab with his Revolut card. So he basically screamed at the airport if anyone has a Revolut account. one guy actually raised his hand, and he walked to him and basically said, like, I transfer you the money via near me if you could give me cash. And that actually happened, so he could pay his cab. And then, so since our whole banking experience is like free, so you don't pay for the like international money transfers, you don't pay for your current account numbers, you don't pay for direct debit, for the spending analytics. What we came up with is like basically we have premium accounts and a metal account. The premium account basically allows you to spend unlimited currency exchange. We usually have a fair usage limit of £5,000 or 6,000 euros a month, which is high enough for most people, but if you want to use it for currency trading, for example, it's not big enough. We currently have people that trade a month at multiple millions to basically get exposure to different currency exchange rates. The other thing is, what's also interesting about this is you have high ATM limits. You have delayed baggage insurance, travel insurance, and a couple of other things.
Banks have failed to move with the times, but we don't need them. Back in 11th century Italy, merchants from all over would exchange their different currencies for trade outdoors on benches, which is where we get the word bank from, banca. They started as a way of making our lives easier. Unfortunately, this all changed. As the bank profits grew bigger, customer experience was lost in a maze of paperwork and bureaucracy. They invented new and complicated ways of growing their margins, built on hidden fees and taking liberties with their customers' money. But there's a solution. Revolut Metal, a stainless steel card that does more than just look good. An authority to tear down borders, make our finances as mobile as we are. Free to spend in 130 currencies worldwide at the real interbank exchange rate. Think sending unlimited amounts of money abroad with no fees.
With free worldwide travel insurance. Think seamlessly buying and selling cryptocurrency in seconds and earning cash back instantly in the fiat or cryptocurrency of your choice. Access to 24/7 concierge from your phone to book what you want when you need it.
For a truly borderless lifestyle. And all this in your pocket.
Demand more from your bank. Revolut Metal. Radically better.
So that's actually what we launched last week. It's basically like debit cards and credit cards have been for ages like made out of plastic. And similar to the old phones, we think there's a new transition coming. And the transition is actually contactless metal cards. So if you had like an Amex, you can actually get a metal card already. Like if you spend more than $1,000 just for subscription fees, plus you have an annual spending of I think over $1 million. In our case, you basically get it for like £120 a year with amazing features like cashback, up to 1% cashback on all of your transactions. Concierge service, which is personally really great. I booked in Buenos Aires a couple of restaurants for it. It's free, and they only charge you if you actually agree to paying for the tickets you ask for. And what's actually the best for me is that whenever you use it, people actually make good comments about it. So they really like the card, they really like the design. It's quite heavy. It's 3 times the weight of a regular card. And if someone wants to see it, how it looks, feels, they can come afterwards to me and I can show you mine. Another part in the financial industry which is quite tricky is like loans. So our goal is basically to offer people in a couple of minutes like their loan. So often people need quick access to cash for whatever reason. So the way we handle this is basically in the app you can provide us with information about your credit. We use basically a couple of logic in the background based on your transaction history and also like on your history of your card spending to determine if you're eligible for a certain loan or not. But in general, like it works quite well and people get a very cheap loan. It's usually up to 50% cheaper than what other banks are offering in the UK or Europe. And you don't have to wait for weeks or months to get your loan. We also have device insurance for £1 a week. and travel as you go insurance. This is actually quite cool. So basically we detect if you travel to a new country or if you go to the airport, we send you a push and just remind you about like, hey, you can get pay-as-you-go travel insurance. And the way it works is basically it starts at £1 a day. You can add additional coverage, for example, for sports, like skiing. So in case you go off-road and you get stuck somewhere in the mountain, you can call the helicopter and you don't have to pay for it. We have cryptocurrency exchange. The way it works is that you can exchange your 24 fiat currencies like US dollars, pounds, euros, I think we have Indian rupees and a couple of other things, into like Litecoin, Bitcoin, with basically the tap of a button. The whole experience, like from creating an account to actually exchanging your first fiat into crypto, took some users like 3 to 4 minutes. So basically, like you can open your account, we check your identity, you load money into your account and you exchange it quite quickly. We also have automated triggers that basically you can say like if the price of a certain currency drops or increases by a certain amount of percentage, you can automatically convert one currency into the other. The other thing is Rita, which is basically, because of our scale, it's quite hard to handle all the support requests. So we also thought, like, how can we make that experience better for our customers? Essentially what we came up with is like a chatbot that automatically provides you with the most common answers to your questions. So basically we use machine learning and natural language processing and a couple of other technologies to detect what people want to ask and then provide them with an instant answer. That takes roughly 20% of all support requests. But in case you're not happy with the response or you want to talk directly to a live agent, you can also do this. And then we have a team of hundreds of dedicated support agents that basically help you out with your need. The other product that we have is Revolut for Business. Basically, we started it last June, and since then we have over 60,000 businesses signed up. Similar to retail bank accounts, the issue with business bank accounts is that it's quite expensive. So I heard a case in Austria that you get charged for every transaction line of your statement, which is quite curious in my way. So what it does is basically you can sign up. You don't have to go to a store anymore. You can create your Revolut account in a couple of steps. You get instant access to all our holding currencies. You also have free international money transfers. You get corporate cards, and we have API integration. So we have customers in France, for example. It's similar to Uber, like a taxi company. And what they do is whenever like a rider takes a ride and completes it, they automatically use the Revolut API to pay the driver. So the whole payment of the driver is completely automated. And it's great for the driver because he actually gets his money instantly. He doesn't have to wait like a month. And it's great for the company because it saves them a lot of money and time. How the Open API works is basically we constantly add new features. So you can listen to webhooks, which basically allow you to monitor if incoming transactions are happening. You can also set automated payments. Let's say you're building an exchange platform or equity crowdfunding platform. You can, based on certain triggers, even from other platforms, let's say, a good example would be I have a spreadsheet, and whenever I add a new row into a spreadsheet, it would trigger automatic a payment. So you can use Zapier to basically combine different APIs and automate your whole workflows. The other thing is that we basically built like our own app store where you can automatically connect these apps. So we have, for example, already Xero, Slack integrations, and a couple of others that help you to automate your workflow. So setting up this integration usually takes a couple of minutes. And then what happens is, like with Slack, for example, Our finance team uses like a Slack channel to monitor all the payments of the corporate cards that we have. Then, actually there's not a slide about it, but like corporate cards is the other big topic about Revolut for Business. So most of you probably know Unilad, which is the biggest Facebook publisher, media publisher actually in the world. They have over 1 billion views every month. And what they do is they basically create a lot of travel content. So they have like a small team that basically travels the world and records videos about the experience there and a couple of other things. And so their problem usually was that, how do you give these people money? Because it's basically like they need to expenses, right? And so usually the process was to actually walk to the bank, ask them for like a new card, which was quite hard to monitor, or ask them for cash. The issue with cash is that often, like if you travel these countries, you come back and then you have like, I don't know, a couple of coins and a couple of like notes left. And actually the effort to go back to the bank, exchange it and go back to the office is more than just basically taking the money and putting it into the bin. So that's actually what happened at the Unilad. That was one thing. The other thing was trips often don't go as planned. So what happens is that if you go abroad and suddenly like you figure out like, oh, actually life is too expensive there, how do you give more money to these people? And so our corporate cards basically allow you to order like a regular Revolut card. You give that your employee, and you can set daily and monthly spending limits, and you can even top up their account. And all payments are automatically categorized, and if you have an integration with Xero, like you also don't need to do the counting anymore. So that saved Unilad, for example, I think 4 days, like basically something that took them 4 days usually, went down to half a day. So what's next? The next big thing is commission-free trading. So similar to Robinhood in the US, you will be able to invest directly into stocks without any fees. We are working very hard on this to launch it still this year. And we believe that this will open a whole new world. So imagine like you can use vaults, and whenever you make a payment, we round up your spare change and directly invest it into Apple stocks. And you don't have fees for this. It's completely automated. The other thing we'll be launching is cashback rewards for all users. So you basically get rewarded for using your Revolut card. Every 10th payment you make, you get a cashback reward. That could be at McDonald's, that could be at Zara, that could be at Amazon. It really depends on your spending history, what brands you actually like. And then how it works is essentially, let's say you get a cashback at McDonald's. So usually you get up to 50% cashback. And then if you go to McDonald's and spend with your Revolut card, we automatically refund you half of the price. The other big thing is groups. So often you travel with, like, let's say your family, and like, let's say you book a flight, right? You have to book flights, you have to book accommodation, and so on. It's quite a lot of process always to split it up between multiple people. So like, wouldn't it be convenient to have like one group account where you basically have all the payments stored and then can easily split it with the whole group? We also add airport launches. So whenever you like at an airport and have too much time, you can just quickly buy access to the launches and then can spend there your time, get free food and all the other benefits. We also start promoting Revolut in retail stores. So we actually secured the first major airlines and also grocery stores in the UK and Austria. And so essentially what will happen is like you can actually go into the store, you can buy your Revolut card directly, and you don't have to wait for the shipping anymore. We also add free acquiring. So what it will do is basically for merchants, like smaller and bigger shops, you can use Revolut for Business and then collect payments. And we won't charge you any fees, so you will save roughly 2% on every payment. The whole thing is also linked to the API, so you can even automate like categorization of payments and basically make certain actions like transferring money to other accounts if you want to. And that's actually, I think, the biggest thing. We are currently, we applied for the banking license earlier this year, and we should be granted it still this year. This is really exciting for us because it basically allows us to add a better experience for our customers, and it also creates a lot of trust as we are in, basically as all customers will enjoy European deposit protection scheme, which basically means that if you put your money into your accounts, like the government will cover up to, I think it's £85,000 or 100,000 euros. And this is probably the most exciting for everyone in Uruguay. We are expanding globally. So the first countries that will come are the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan. But we're also targeting like Latin America, Africa, and a couple of other countries. So why this is so important for us is because we really believe in a borderless banking experience. We believe in a fair and transparent banking experience. And moving to all these countries helps first all our existing users to enjoy a better customer experience, but also allows all the other people in the world to enjoy the same service. One example for how you can use this is like a friend of mine worked at Goldman in Sydney, and so he had like a lot of savings in Australian dollars. And to move his Australian dollars after he left the company back to Austria, to move the money back to Austria, he would be charged like massively amount of fees. So when we launch actually in Australia, what he can do is he just clicks a button, he gets his Australian account numbers, he can load all his money into a Revolut account, he can exchange it into euros with no markup, and then basically transfer locally back to his Austrian bank account if he needs to. So usually something which would take quite a lot of days and take a lot of your money off your shoulders will then be done in a couple of minutes. Thank you.